To effectively oppose the GFCI and child-proof receptacle proposals within the National Electrical Code, several avenues can be pursued. Firstly, contacting the National Fire Protection Association, or NFPA, is a crucial step. This can be done via phone, email, or a formal written letter. When communicating with the NFPA, it is vital to clearly express concerns regarding the proposals. Offer specific reasons outlining why these proposals are viewed unfavorably, and suggest viable alternatives that could address the intended safety benefits without the associated drawbacks. Reinforce the potential negative consequences of the proposals with supporting data aiming to substantiate any claims made against them. Secondly, consider joining the National Electrical Contractors Association, or NECA. NECA is a trade association that actively advocates for electrical contractors on code-related issues. By becoming a member of NECA, the opportunity to participate in code development meetings is opened up, providing a platform to voice opposition directly. This also enables contribution to discussions and decision-making processes concerning the NEC. Thirdly, attending NEC code development hearings is highly recommended. These hearings provide a public forum to participate in the code development process. Attendees can present arguments against specific proposals, engaging in discussions with code panel members who hold voting rights. This direct interaction can be instrumental in shaping the understanding and perspectives of those responsible for making code decisions. Fourthly, formulating and supporting alternative proposals can offer a more constructive approach. Instead of merely opposing existing proposals, consider submitting alternative solutions that address the core safety concerns without introducing the unintended consequences often associated with blanket mandates like GFCI and child-proof receptacle requirements. Collaborating with other industry professionals to develop consensus-based solutions strengthens the credibility and potential for acceptance of these alternatives. Fifthly, raising awareness and educating others is key to garnering broader support. Share any concerns regarding the proposals with colleagues, homeowners, and community groups. Clearly explain the potential risks and benefits associated with the proposals, ensuring that all parties understand the implications of their adoption. Utilize social media and online forums to disseminate information and gather support for a specific position, amplifying the message and reaching a wider audience. Sixthly, if all other avenues prove insufficient, filing a formal objection with the NFPA should be considered. This involves formally stating the reasons for opposing the proposals and providing comprehensive evidence to support these objections. A well-documented and reasoned objection can carry significant weight in the decision-making process. Addressing the question of whether these proposals can be stopped, it is indeed possible, but requires a concerted effort from various stakeholders including industry professionals, homeowners, and other interested parties. By diligently following the aforementioned steps, there is an increased likelihood of preventing these mandates from being adopted into the NEC. It is important to understand the limitations faced by non-voting members of the NEC. While all members have the right to comment on proposed changes, only code panel members possess voting rights. However, do not underestimate the influence that insights and contributions can have on the decision-making process. Even without a vote, well-reasoned arguments and supporting data can significantly impact the opinions and decisions of those who do. When constructing an argument against the widespread adoption of GFCIs and tamper-resistant receptacles, several factors should be considered. The cost-effectiveness of these devices is a primary concern. Widespread adoption can lead to significant increases in material and labor costs, particularly in new construction and renovation projects. These costs can disproportionately affect lower-income homeowners and renters, making housing less affordable. The reliability of GFCIs and tamper-resistant receptacles should also be taken into account. GFCIs are prone to nuisance tripping, which can disrupt essential services and create inconvenience for homeowners. Tamper-resistant receptacles, while designed to prevent accidental insertion of foreign objects, can sometimes be difficult to use, particularly for elderly individuals or those with limited dexterity. This can lead to frustration and potential circumvention of the safety feature. The potential for reduced awareness and complacency is another critical consideration. Over-reliance on GFCIs and tamper-resistant receptacles can lead to a false sense of security, causing individuals to become less vigilant about electrical safety. It is important to emphasize that these devices are not foolproof and should not be considered a substitute for safe electrical practices. The scope and applicability of the proposed mandate should also be carefully examined. Consider whether the mandates are overly broad and fail to account for specific situations where GFCIs and tamper-resistant receptacles may not be necessary or practical. For example, requiring GFCI protection in all residential outlets may be excessive in certain locations, such as those that are not readily accessible to water or children. The availability of alternative safety measures is an important factor to consider. There may be other effective ways to address the safety concerns that these mandates are intended to resolve. For example, improved electrical safety education, enhanced building codes, and targeted safety programs could provide a more comprehensive and cost-effective approach. The potential for unintended consequences should also be carefully evaluated. For example, widespread use of tamper-resistant receptacles could lead to increased use of adapters and extension cords, which can create additional safety hazards. The impact on existing housing stock should also be considered. Retrofitting existing homes with GFCIs and tamper-resistant receptacles can be expensive and disruptive, particularly for older homes with outdated electrical systems. It is important to consider whether there are more practical and cost-effective ways to improve electrical safety in existing homes. Furthermore, the burden of enforcement should be carefully assessed. Enforcing these mandates can be challenging, particularly in existing buildings where it may be difficult to verify compliance. This can lead to inconsistent enforcement and unfair application of the code. When presenting arguments against these proposals, it is essential to provide data and evidence to support any claims. This may include studies on the cost-effectiveness of GFCIs and tamper-resistant receptacles, reports on the frequency of nuisance tripping, and surveys on homeowner attitudes towards electrical safety. It is also important to present alternative solutions that are both practical and cost-effective. This may include proposals for targeted safety programs, improved electrical safety education, and enhanced building codes. When communicating with the NFPA and NEC code panel members, it is crucial to remain respectful and professional. Avoid personal attacks or inflammatory language. Focus on presenting well-reasoned arguments supported by data and evidence. It is also important to be persistent and to continue advocating for concerns even if the initial response is not favorable. The code development process can be lengthy and complex, so it is important to remain engaged throughout the entire process. In addition to the above-mentioned steps, consider forming a coalition with other concerned parties. By working together with other industry professionals, homeowners, and community groups, the collective voice can be amplified and increase the chances of influencing the code development process. This coalition can work to raise awareness, gather support, and advocate for preferred solutions. It is also essential to stay informed about the latest developments in electrical safety technology and codes. This will allow you to effectively participate in discussions and provide informed opinions on proposed changes. Attend industry conferences, read trade publications, and participate in online forums to stay up to date on the latest news and trends. Remember that the code development process is a collaborative effort. By working together with other stakeholders, it is possible to create electrical codes that are both safe and practical. There is a lot to consider when examining the potential impact of GFCI and tamper-resistant receptacle mandates. Firstly, one must consider the cost implications. For example, a standard non-GFCI outlet might cost around 50 cents, whereas a GFCI outlet could cost anywhere from $15 to $20 or more. When you multiply that across an entire house or an entire development, the cost adds up significantly. Similarly, tamper-resistant receptacles, while not as expensive as GFCIs, do add an incremental cost compared to standard receptacles. Secondly, nuisance tripping is another concern with GFCIs. Certain appliances or electrical equipment can cause GFCIs to trip even when there is no actual ground fault. This can be disruptive, especially if it affects essential equipment like refrigerators or medical devices. It's also important to consider the location-specific needs. For example, requiring GFCI protection in every single outlet, even in a dry location like a living room, might be considered overkill by some. There's a question of whether the added protection justifies the added cost and potential inconvenience. Tamper-resistant receptacles also have their own set of considerations. While they are designed to prevent children from sticking objects into outlets, some users find them difficult to use, especially those with limited dexterity. There's also the question of how effective they really are at preventing determined children from finding a way to bypass the safety mechanism. The 2008 National Electrical Code, or NEC, proposed mandates regarding GFCIs and tamper-resistant receptacles sparked considerable debate. The main point of contention was whether these mandates were justified in terms of cost-effectiveness and practical benefits, versus the potential drawbacks and unintended consequences. There were concerns that manufacturers might be pushing for these mandates to increase their profits, without sufficient evidence that they would significantly improve safety. It's important to remember that the NEC is not law. It's a set of standards that are developed and updated every 3 years by the National Fire Protection Association, or NFPA. Local jurisdictions can choose to adopt the NEC as is, or they can modify it to suit their specific needs. This means that even if the NEC includes a particular mandate, it's not necessarily binding in every location. Stopping a proposal like this requires a multifaceted approach. It involves engaging with the NFPA, participating in code development hearings, and educating others about the potential impacts of the proposed changes. As a member of the NEC, even without voting rights on the code panel, one can still play a vital role in shaping the discussion and influencing the outcome. Joining NECA is another way to amplify one's voice and advocate for the concerns of electrical contractors. NECA has a seat at the table during the code development process and can represent the interests of its members. The NEC code development hearings are an opportunity to present arguments against the proposals and engage in discussions with code panel members. It's important to be well prepared with data and evidence to support the claims. Consider submitting alternative proposals that address the safety concerns without the unintended consequences of the original mandates. Work with other industry professionals to develop consensus-based solutions that are both effective and practical. Raising awareness and educating others is also crucial. Share concerns with colleagues, homeowners, and community groups. Explain the potential risks and benefits of the proposals and gather support for your position. Utilize social media and online forums to spread the message. If necessary, file a formal objection with the NFPA. State the reasons for opposing the proposals and provide evidence to support the objections. The chances of stopping the proposals depend on the level of engagement and the strength of the arguments presented. A concerted effort from industry professionals, homeowners, and other stakeholders is essential. While members of the NEC who are not on the code panel don't have voting rights, their insights and contributions can still influence the decision-making process. The key is to be informed, engaged, and persistent. It's also important to remember that the NEC is a living document that is constantly evolving. Even if a proposal is adopted in one edition of the code, it can be challenged and modified in future editions. The goal is to ensure that the electrical code is based on sound science, practical experience, and a balanced consideration of costs and benefits. The process of creating and updating the National Electrical Code, or NEC, is designed to be a collaborative and transparent one. It involves a wide range of stakeholders, including electrical contractors, engineers, manufacturers, inspectors, and consumers. This ensures that the code reflects the diverse perspectives and interests of the electrical industry. The NEC is revised every 3 years to keep pace with technological advancements and evolving safety concerns. The revision process begins with the submission of proposals for changes to the code. These proposals can be submitted by anyone, regardless of whether they are a member of the NFPA or not. The proposals are then reviewed by the code-making panels, which are composed of experts in various areas of electrical safety. The code-making panels consider the proposals and make recommendations for changes to the code. These recommendations are then published for public comment. The public is invited to submit comments on the proposed changes, and the code-making panels consider these comments when making their final decisions. The final version of the NEC is then published by the NFPA. The NEC is widely adopted by state and local jurisdictions throughout the United States. However, it is important to note that the NEC is not law unless it is adopted by a governing body. State and local jurisdictions can choose to adopt the NEC as is, or they can modify it to suit their specific needs. This means that the electrical codes can vary from one jurisdiction to another. It is always important to check the local electrical codes before starting any electrical work. The NEC is a complex and comprehensive document that covers a wide range of electrical safety topics. It is essential for anyone working with electricity to be familiar with the NEC. Electrical contractors, engineers, and inspectors must have a thorough understanding of the NEC in order to ensure that electrical installations are safe and compliant. Homeowners and consumers should also be aware of basic electrical safety principles and follow the guidelines outlined in the NEC. Electrical safety is a shared responsibility. By working together, we can create a safer environment for everyone. The NEC plays a vital role in promoting electrical safety. By providing a set of standards for electrical installations, the NEC helps to prevent electrical fires, shocks, and other hazards. The NEC is constantly evolving to keep pace with technological advancements and evolving safety concerns. The NEC is a valuable resource for anyone working with electricity. By following the guidelines outlined in the NEC, we can all help to make electrical installations safer and more reliable. To further elaborate on the technical considerations related to GFCI protection, it's important to understand how these devices function. A GFCI, or ground fault circuit interrupter, works by monitoring the current flowing through the hot and neutral wires of a circuit. Under normal circumstances, the current flowing through these two wires should be equal. If there is a ground fault, meaning that some of the current is leaking to ground, the current balance between the hot and neutral wires will be disrupted. The GFCI detects this imbalance and quickly trips the circuit, cutting off the flow of electricity. GFCIs are designed to trip very quickly, typically within a fraction of a second. This rapid response time is crucial in preventing electrical shock. The tripping threshold for GFCIs is typically around 5 milliamps. This means that if the current imbalance exceeds 5 milliamps, the GFCI will trip. GFCIs are typically required in areas where there is a high risk of electrical shock, such as bathrooms, kitchens, and outdoor locations. The NEC specifies the specific locations where GFCI protection is required. In dwelling units, GFCI protection is generally required for receptacles located in bathrooms, kitchens, garages, outdoors, crawl spaces, unfinished basements, and laundry areas. There are some exceptions to these requirements, such as receptacles that are not readily accessible or that serve specific appliances. GFCIs are available in several different types, including receptacle-type GFCIs, circuit breaker-type GFCIs, and portable GFCIs. Receptacle-type GFCIs are installed in place of standard receptacles and provide GFCI protection for the specific receptacle. Circuit breaker-type GFCIs are installed in the electrical panel and provide GFCI protection for the entire circuit. Portable GFCIs are designed to be plugged into a standard receptacle and provide GFCI protection for any equipment plugged into the portable GFCI. When installing GFCIs, it is important to follow the manufacturer's instructions and to ensure that the GFCI is properly grounded. It is also important to test the GFCI regularly to ensure that it is functioning properly. GFCIs can be tested by pressing the test button on the GFCI. This should cause the GFCI to trip. If the GFCI does not trip when the test button is pressed, it should be replaced. In addition to GFCI protection, the NEC also requires arc fault circuit interrupter, or FSI protection for many circuits in dwelling units. FSIs are designed to protect against electrical fires caused by arc faults. Arc faults are dangerous electrical conditions that can occur when there is a break or damage in the wiring. SIs detect these arc faults and quickly trip the circuit, preventing a fire from starting. SIs are typically required for branch circuits that supply outlets or devices in bedrooms, living rooms, dining rooms, and other similar areas. SIs are available in circuit breaker type and outlet branch circuit type. Circuit breaker type SIs are installed in the electrical panel and provide SI protection for the entire circuit. Outlet branch circuit type SIs are installed at the first outlet in the branch circuit and provide SI protection for the entire branch circuit downstream of the device. When installing SIs, it is important to follow the manufacturer's instructions and to ensure that the SI is properly wired. It is also important to test the SI regularly to ensure that it is functioning properly. SIs can be tested by pressing the test button on the SI. This should cause the SI to trip. If the SI does not trip when the test button is pressed, it should be replaced. Tamper-resistant receptacles are another important safety device that is designed to prevent children from inserting objects into electrical outlets. Tamper-resistant receptacles have spring-loaded shutters that prevent access to the electrical contacts unless a 2-prong or 3-prong plug is inserted. Tamper-resistant receptacles are required by the NEC in new construction and renovation projects in dwelling units. Tamper-resistant receptacles are an effective way to prevent electrical shock injuries to children. They are relatively inexpensive and easy to install. When installing tamper-resistant receptacles, it is important to follow the manufacturer's instructions and to ensure that the receptacle is properly wired. It is also important to choose tamper-resistant receptacles that are listed by a recognized testing laboratory, such as Underwriters Laboratories, or all. Electrical safety is a critical concern, and it is essential to take appropriate measures to protect against electrical hazards. GFCIs, SIs, and tamper-resistant receptacles are all valuable tools that can help to improve electrical safety in homes and other buildings. By following the guidelines outlined in the NEC and by using these safety devices properly, it is possible to significantly reduce the risk of electrical shock and fire. Consider the potential impact of these proposed changes on the electrical industry and on consumers. Be aware of the code development process and participate in it to ensure that the electrical code reflects the best available knowledge and practices.